What's going on, everybody? This is Emerald Knight Leon back with another deck analysis. I am sad that I haven't been able to really get a lot of playing with EX4, but with pre-releases now starting for BT13, I am happy that the age of burst mode is now here. For people who don't know, I love Digimon Data Squad. I also love Savers. Just as much as I love Frontier, but not as much. Uh, but for this set, we are starting off with a deck that I've been building not just for myself, but for my lovely girlfriend who loves Palmon and Rosemon. And today we're going to talk about Rosemon Burst Mode. Now, a lot of people have told me, why are you running Rosemon? Well, that's more of a question, but still, same thing applies. Why run Rosemon when we can still run the Hydramon and Bloomlord? Well, because I like Rosemon, okay? Rosemon's cool. Rosemon hasn't had decent support in a long time. Last time we got any new cards for it was roughly around EX1. And now that we have new support for it, I like that. I want to test it out. I want to play it. And we're going to get more Rosemon support with BT13 when we get the Ace cards. And I'm going to build a deck on that. But starting things off, we are running Kokomon. 4 copies is by far the best card for this kind of deck. Its effect lets you draw a card when an effect suspends one of your Digimon during your turn. We have a lot of cards that will do that. The majority of this deck runs the Bloomlord Hydra engine, essentially. You're running mostly the same thing. Going into our level 3s, we are running 4 copies of Palmon, which functions as a great searcher. It lets us reveal top 4 cards of our deck. We can add 1 Digimon with Vegetation or Plant in its traits, and 1 card with Fairy. So we get 2 cards out of the 4. If we're lucky enough, the rest go to the bottom in any order. We're running 4 copies of EX3's Pomumon. Mainly because since we are running the same engine as Bloomlord Hydra, we are using effects that will suspend. We can also suspend Pomumon through those effects in order to suspend our opponent's Digimon as well, just in case we want to swing over something. And finally, we are running from the new set 4 copies of Lalamon. Now, Lalamon's original incarnation was primarily a Digiburst card. We're not really using that here. This Lalamon is a searcher like Palmon. It lets us reveal top 3 cards of our deck, add 1 Digimon with Vegetation, Plant, or Fairy in its traits, and 1 Yoshino Fujieda, and then place the rest to the bottom. It also has an inheritable that is shared with Sunflowermon, which is when this Digimon would Digivolve. If you have a green tamer in play, reduce the cost by 1. For our level 4s, we are running 4 copies of Sunflowermon from BT10. This is a card that can be played from Agitar's effect, but its when Digivolving is what we like. By suspending one of our green Digimon, including itself, you may play 1 Digimon card with Vegetation, Plant, or Fairy in one of its traits, and a cost and 3,000 DP or less from your hand without paying its cost. Its inheritable lets us, once per turn, when an effect suspends one of our Digimon, draw 1 card. So we can bring out, say, Lalamon, Digivolve it into Sunflowermon, suspend Sunflowermon to play Palmon to search for our level 5 or 6 if we already have the 5 in hand. We are also running 4 copies of the new Sunflowermon from BT13. As mentioned, it's inheritable when it would Digivolve. If you have a green tamer in play, it reduces the cost by 1. Its main effect, though, by suspending this Digimon, you may Digivolve one of your Digimon into a Digimon card with Fairy in one of its traits from your hand by paying its Digivolution cost. When you would Digivolve by this effect, reduce the cost by 2. So if we had Sunflowermon be played by Agitar and then Digivolve Agitar into Rosemon, we could use Sunflowermon's main effect in order to reduce that cost to a 1 cost. And if we were on top of another Sunflowermon or a Lalamon, then that means we could reduce it by an extra 1 if Yoshino's in play. Or if that's not the case, but Yoshino's still in play, we could still gain a memory off of it, making the cost pretty much negligent. Finally, though, we are running 3 copies of Digimon. Now, there are a couple level 4s that you could run in place of Digimon. I prefer Digimon because we are not running a memory fixer here. At best, our main source of memory is coming from green memory boost or reducing stuff. So, gaining that 1 memory at the start of our turn is really nice in my opinion, and it's something I wouldn't sleep on. Moving into our level 5s, we are running 2 copies of Agitar from BT10. Its main effect, by suspending one of your green Digimon, which can include itself, you may play 1 Digimon card with Vegetation, Plant, or Fairy in its traits, and 3000 DP or less from your hand without paying its play cost. Its inheritable lets us gain a memory when an effect suspends one of our Digimon. So, we use Agitar, we play the Sunflowermon, use Sunflowermon to Digivolve Agitar into Rosemon for reduced cost, so on and so forth. We could do that with any of our other stuff, as long as we have the Sunflowermon in play. And, yeah. We are also running 4 copies of BT13's Lilamon. Lilamon, I love this artwork. Its Digivolution effect is decent. You may play 1 Yoshino Fujieda from your hand without paying its cost, since we are running 4. If we have it, we get to play it. It's a memory fixer, which is nice. And it also lets us gain memory off of Digivolution. In hindsight, I just realized I mentioned we don't have memory fixers. Shows what I know. Lilamon's inheritable, however, is something that is nice and I like. We haven't seen, personally, this kind of effects and wording since Lilymon. During your turn, while your opponent has a suspended Digimon in play, this Digimon gains Security Attack +1. So your Rosemon swinging in for 2 checks. We are also running 1 copy of Blossomon. Now, if you go back a few months ago, a lot of the deck lists for this kind of deck would be running 3 to 4 copies of Blossomon. We can't do that anymore. We can't do that. Blossomon is now restricted to 1. So we can only have 1 copy. The reason for this is it's Digi-Absorption -3. Essentially, we can suspend one of our Digimon, including the one we're Digivolving onto, and just reduce Blossomon by 3, so it becomes a free Evo. Essentially warping our way into level 6 easily. We are also running 2 copies of Lilymon. Now, most people would not run Lilymon. I will run it simply because I do like Lilymon. I like its effect of when one of your opponent's Digimons becomes suspended, we gain Security Attack +1. It just gives me more of a means to get Security Attack +1. But also, I just like the concept of Lilymon and Rosemon. You know? That's just me. If I were to replace it, I'll talk about that in a couple minutes. Finally, on to our level 6. We are running 4 copies of Rosemon. Now, if we were running more level 6s, I would say running 2 copies of the promo Rosemon from back in the day, Digi-Absorption -2, would be useful. But because we are running some other stuff, I don't feel like I'll need it. I might be wrong in the future when I get further live testing, but we'll see. Rosemon, however, let's talk about her. By suspending one of your opponent's Digimon or Tamers, unsuspend this Digimon. Then, all turns, once per turn, when opponent's Digimon or Tamer becomes suspended, suspend one of your opponent's Digimon or Tamers. Your opponent has to take care of your Rosemon fast, because if they have a wide board, the moment they attack with something, you can suspend one of their other stuff. If they are attacking with one Digimon and going to follow up with another, you can suspend that other Digimon. It doesn't amount for much at the start, but it can stack quite a lot over time, and just makes it easier for you to swing over their stuff. Now, on to level 7s, because we are running 5 level 7s. Let's start with the main name of the game. Rosemon Burst Mode. Burst Mode is a new thing. Basically, Burst Digivolving allows us to Digivolve on top of the same name Digimon by returning one accompanying tamer, in this case Yoshino, to our hand. At the end of the turn, trash the top card of this Digimon. So Rosemon is Burst Mode is a one-turn gimmick, sadly. Theoretically speaking, you could just regular Evo onto Rosemon and then it will stay there, because the Burst Digivolve is the part where it's just a one-turn thing. That is an option you could do. It is a 5 cost, in which case, if you are doing that, I would highly recommend just running Hidden Potential Discovered. I'm not currently running it. I probably will in the future. I just want to see how the deck runs without it for a bit. When Digivolving, suspend one of your opponent's Digimon and one of their Tamers. All of your opponent's Digimon and Tamers don't unsuspend until the end of their turn. This stays. When attacking, for every 2 suspended Digimon and or Tamers your opponent has in play, trash the top card of your opponent's security stack. Does this sound familiar? Because it sounds familiar. This sounds like a watered-down version of what we're also playing, 2 copies of Quartzmon. Quartzmon is our big red button. It's going to remain the big red button for a lot of decks because of just how oppressive it can be at times. If your deck doesn't have the proper out for Quartzmon, you're screwed. When Digivolving, suspend all of your other Digimon and all Tamers. Then for every 2 suspended Digimon and or Tamers, gain 1 memory. All turns, other than this Digimon, all Digimon and Tamers don't unsuspend. When attacking, suspend one of your opponent's Digimon or Tamers. Then trash the top card of your opponent's security stack for every 5 suspended Digimon and or Tamers. This deck can work fairly fast if you have the right setup and the right cards to start with. But there are some issues. If your opponent does have the proper out for Quartzmon, it is a little harder. And depending on what you're against, if your opponent just has a god tier hand, they will outpace you fairly quickly. Which is why I do prefer running certain option cards. One of which being 2 copies of Grand El Sol. I just like the idea of having a button that can pop up in my security where I can suspend an opponent's Digimon and then return it to the bottom of their deck. I just appreciate a card like that. It works, and I can reduce it to a 6 cost if I have 2 or more green suspended Digimon in play, which I will have because of how this deck functions. We'll also be running 3 copies of Green Memory Boost. Simply, it just is a searcher. It reveals top 4 cards, add a green Digimon to our hand, and then the delay of gain 2 memory. Just in case we aren't able to get Yoshino out in play for some reason, we don't draw into her, or she's stuck in our security. We just have a means of gaining more memory, and if our opponent doesn't have a memory fixer, then we can potentially choke them a little bit easier. Finally, Yoshino. Yoshino is a memory fixer, so we'll start at 3 regardless. When one of your Digimon digivolves into a Digimon card with Vegetation, Plant, or Fairy in one of its traits, by suspending this tamer, gain 1 memory. A much better version than her original incarnation. Number of sets ago. What was it? BT4? Yeah, much better, because back then that was more Digiburst focused. 4 cards that you could tech in. There are a few. Not a lot. A few. For level 3s, Palmon from BT11 is a nice one. Its start of turn, draw 1, just lets you fuel your hand a lot faster. With the amount of drawing I'm already doing, though, I prefer not to do it any more than I have to, especially if I'm against a Mirage Galgamon player. Given the new support Mirage Galgamon has gotten, lets them gain a crap ton of memory off of just how many cards are in my hand. For level 4s, we have Red Vegemon and Weedmon, basically being Digimon that have 3000 DP and are also Vegetation. They are some of the only ones that can be played off of effects like Sunflowermon or Agitar. We also, for level 5s, can run Cherrymon and Argomon for similar reasons. Argomon just because of the Digi absorption, and then it's when attacking inheritable is nice. Cherrymon because of its redirecting ability that can just switch the target to another suspended Digimon. There is, if you don't want to run Rosemon, just run the Bloom Lord and the Hydra. They work. They work just as well as anything else. Honestly, they still have a lot of stay power in the meta. For option cards, Hidden Potential Discovered is a great card to use. It can only have one copy of it in your deck, but you know it still works. I have slowly been gaining a love for Tropical Venom just because if I'm suspending my opponent's Digimon and then I'm swinging over it, I can just get more memory off of that with Tropical Venom by attaching one of their suspended Digimon with on deletion lose 2 memory. Samada Santi is another great option card. You may suspend one of your Digimon to suspend one of your opponent's Digimon or Tamers. You could easily use this card on, say, Lilamon or Agitar if Agitar is not already suspended. Digivolve into Rosemon, suspending one of your opponent's other Digimon or Tamers, and then unsuspending Rosemon. Could work just as well. For Tamers, Mimi is also good. I would run it mainly at a 1 of, if possible, just because you need max on Yoshino. You need the max on Yoshino if you're using burst mode. Taiga is also a decent one, just because reducing Digivolution cost of Digivolving into a level 5 or higher, and then all of your other Digimon gain plus 1,000. So, just further increasing the amount of power your Digimon has is always nice. But that is it for this analysis. I'm excited for Rosemon. I'm excited for a lot of different decks, actually. I've been tinkering around with some ideas. I was always enamored with Black Toolbox and Craniumon, so I have actually been tinkering around with that as an idea, and that is a video I will plan on making in the future. But tell me, what do you guys think of this deck? Are you excited for Burst Mode and Burst Digivolutions? What decks are you excited for in this set? Because we do have quite a few options, honestly. And I will see you all in the next video. Peace.